Well, they fabricated evidence and they lied to the courts and they did all sorts of things to have it go their way. And this was something that we can never allow to happen again. The report actually, and especially when you look into it, and the details of the report are far worse than anything I would have even imagined. What they were doing and what they would have done if I didn't make a certain move that was a very important move, because it would have been even worse if that's possible. And they might have been able to succeed. This was an overthrow of government. This was an attempted overthrow, and a lot of people were in on it. And they got caught. They got caught red-handed. And I look forward to the Durham report, which is coming out in the not too distant future. It's got his own information, which is this information plus, plus, plus. And it's an incredible thing that happened, and we're lucky we caught him. I think I'm going to put this down as one of our great achievements, because what we found and what we saw, never, ever should this happen again in our country.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, Q predicted there would be secret communications inside of the IG report, and we're going to look at how that's being proven today with the IG report being released. We're going to dive deep into that, and one of the main characters that we need to look at more closely is James Comey, or as he's known in the report, James Corney. And I'm not making this up. You guys are going to want to stick around and check out that, plus highlights from the impeachment hearing today on Capitol Hill. So stick around and check this out. Hi, my name is Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I just first have to say thank you. If you have hit that subscribe button, if you guys haven't done it yet, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when these videos get posted. So today we're going to pick up where we left off, and there's not been any new Q posts. We're still in a holding pattern. The last post we had was on December 7th, and there was a whole thread that led up to what you're seeing here, Q post 3666. And of course, we know what that number is associated with, and it was dealing with some very disturbing content, in my humble opinion. If you guys want to get caught up on that content and everything else, come back here, watch these last videos, share them on your social media. I always have to remind everybody, there is a content suppression algorithm in effect. You know, you can see the numbers in real time get driven down, and YouTube's only going to continue to see it seemingly ramp this up until something happens where they're brought to understand that they're suppressing free speech, they're meddling in the 2020 election, and it can't be allowed. It has to be put an end to, let's put it that way. But with that in mind, how do we get around that? You guys have to share these videos, get the word out that way. That's just as simple as it is. So hit the share button, and hit the share button on all those other videos if you watch them. And if you're scratching your head going, what is QAnon the Great Awakening? Watch this video right here. What is QAnon the Great Awakening? That will give you all the information you need, plus a whole lot more. So before we get started, I got to remind you, this video is brought to you in part by RedPillLiving.com/justinformed. You guys need to go check out RedPillLiving.com/justinformed. Check out all their great products. If you use the coupon code JUSTINFORMED, you'll get an extra 10% off the already discounted prices. Me and my family love these products. The liposomal vitamins, the carbon 60, all of it. You guys should go check it out. And I encourage you to go check out RedPillLiving.com/justinformed. Don't forget to use that coupon code to get 10% off your already discounted prices. So getting into our first story here, this one is where I want to lead off, because I think this gives us a good idea of where everything's coming from, right? Why are the deep staters going after President Trump? Because he broke up their, rich criminal club they were all a part of, right? And this is one example of something that we need to dive deeper into, right? The story here, Obama gave Pearson Publishing $350 million to create Common Core text, and Pearson gave them, maybe coincidentally, I guess, a $65 million book deal. So this is the kind of quid pro quo cronyism and corruption that we're trying to uproot. We're trying to fix our political system, fix our two-tier justice system, expose these evil criminals in the process, and expose the fake news who covers up for them, who, we'll get into that a little bit later, but have been basically complicit from day one, because it's all the same, elite clubs that they all run in the same circles. So this is where I want to start. The question has to be just stated. Is this an example of quid pro quo, as we see with Joe Biden? And we're going to get into the IG report in just a second here, and we're going to get into highlights from today's impeachment hearings, just the hoax hearings, if you want to call them what they really are. And when you look at all of these facts and the way that they pile up, all I can say is that whether it's Hunter Biden getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Ukrainians, if it's, Hunter Biden get $1 billion plus deal with China, or it's Christopher Hines, John Kerry's stepson, working with Hunter Biden, or it's Obama getting a $65 million book deal, or it's Hillary Clinton in the Uranium One scandal with the Clinton Foundation. I mean, whatever it is, it's like everywhere we look with these people who are trying to call us, crazy conspiracy theorists, if not that, deplorable, if not that, then racist. They're the ones engaging in corruption, selling out our country, enriching themselves, and trying to paint it as, we're the criminals for trying to investigate them. As Q predicted, right? Q said that they would paint it as attacking your political enemies, correct? So that's why I wanted to start with this story in particular, and the new FISA IG report. This is the big story, right? And this headline basically sums a lot of it up here, but we're going to get into a lot more detail as well. This is from Joe Hoff over at the Gateway Pundit, talking about how the IG FISA report has revealed that Obama administration falsely claimed Russia bribed the Trump campaign. Now, why would they make that false accusation? Oh, I don't know, to create a precedent to spy on the future president, Donald Trump, in order to try to gain a political advantage in our 2016 U.S. presidential election. Possibly. Maybe that's if you just were to logically, objectively tie things together and not view it from a skewed and biased viewpoint as the fake news does on a regular basis. You have to look at it objectively, logically. That's what the underlying fact is, I think, when we look at this IG FISA report. And more broadly, I think we have to remember that Inspector General Horowitz never had any prosecutorial authority. He's not out there, he's not going to be the one prosecuting these crimes if they're really crimes that happen. And he's not running around with a badge and a gun like some, police officer. What he is doing, though, is giving us an insight into exactly how big it was. Now, he can say what he wants about intent and, whether or not it was a conspiracy, because none of that matters. The facts speak for themselves, and the facts show, as President Trump said earlier in this video that you saw at the beginning, this was a criminal conspiracy basically against him. That's basically what he said, I think, something to that effect. And the sooner people wake up to the fact that, Durham's investigation is going to be about this particular abuse and how they tried to take down a president, then John Huber, also, we're going to get into later, is coming back into the news now with more probes into the Clinton Foundation. So they got to understand, people have to understand that when all this comes out, it's going to show what we've been saying from day one, which is that these people are corrupt. So here's John Solomon reporting, giving us this, just how bad was the FBI's Russia FISA, 51 violations and 9 false statements. This is straight from John Solomon today about the FISA report that was just released. And it says here, the appendix identifies a total of 51 Woods procedures violations from the FISA application the FBI submitted to the court authorizing the surveillance of former Trump campaign aide Carter Page starting in 2016. So think about that. 51 violations were committed in the process of obtaining FISA warrants to spy on a Trump campaign aide. Who in their right mind objectively looks at that fact and goes, yeah, that totally wasn't an organized attempt to spy on their political adversaries. It's just a series of very, tragic and unfortunate errors made by, very well-meaning FBI agents. No, look at their actions. Comey's leaking to the media illegally. You have them using unverified intelligence with Christopher Steele and the whole Steele dossier, which was just the most insane, asinine thing I ever saw in my life, but they tried to pin it on Trump and they knew it was fake, right? And then you go down the line, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, them texting back and forth about how they're going to set up the president. They're going to use insurance against them. So it's ridiculous, in my humble opinion, to think for 1 second that 51 procedural violations in the attempt to get FISA warrants to spy on President Trump were just coincidental and weren't a part of a broader conspiracy being orchestrated against President Trump. So let's look at this story right here. We have Attorney General coming out and publicly stating that the surveillance of Trump campaign was a clear abuse of the FISA process. So when you think about that, you have to understand, Attorney General Barr came out today and basically derided the IG report and saying that it was obvious what I just put together there for you, which was that it was a conspiracy put on against the president by these people who weren't just making mistakes. They were intentionally plotting to overthrow the president, to frame him for something he didn't do, and to use the things that they were framing the people around him with in order to spy on them illegally. So I don't understand what's so hard for people to really get about all this. This is the story coming out of the Epoch Times. Here's the official statement from Attorney General William Barr. He put out this official statement today, or yesterday, just following the release of the IG report, or excuse me, I think just before it, saying this. And I'm only going to read the important part here. It says, the Inspector General's report now makes clear the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken. It is also clear that from its inception, the evidence produced by the investigation was consistently exculpatory. So I don't even understand how people are really going on the fake news and lying, except that they just obviously are paid to lie at this point. It goes on and says, nevertheless, the investigation and surveillance was pushed forward for the duration of the campaign and deep into the President Trump's administration. In the rush to obtain and maintain FISA surveillance of Trump campaign associates, FBI officials misled the FISA court, omitted critical exculpatory facts from their filings, and suppressed or ignored information negating the reliability of their principal source. So, I mean, this is the Attorney General of the United States coming forward and laying it on the line, saying everything that the Inspector General found was correct, except in his assertions that there was some sort of predicate for this intrusive, as he calls it, investigation, which we all know is just another way of saying illegal spying. So here's what I just wanted to show you. It also is that there was a statement put out today by the U.S. Attorney John Durham, and I just thought I'd share it with you real quick since it's pretty short. It says, I have the utmost respect for the mission of the Office of the Inspector General and the comprehensive work that went into the report prepared by Mr. Horowitz and his staff. However, our investigation is not limited to developing information from within component parts of the Justice Department. Our investigation has included developing information from other persons and entities, both in the United States and outside the United States. Based on the evidence collected to date, while our investigation is ongoing, last month we advised the Inspector General that we do not agree with some of the report's conclusions as to predication and how the FBI case was opened. So right now, we know U.S. Attorney John Durham, who's going to have the prosecutorial power to go after these people and put them on trial and give indictments, this person is disagreeing with the IG report as well. So with that, I want to go into John Brennan, right? What did John Brennan know, and when did he know it? And this is a big question because he did get up back in 2016 in front of Congress and basically state that there was he didn't know anything about the Steele dossier and that they didn't use that as a predication for spying on President Trump. Whereas now, today, we are learning, well, actually, that's exactly what happened. You guys used an unverified piece of salacious intelligence that nobody would have trusted ever, who had half a cent, in their brain. And then you went after the president. Why did you do it? Well, I think it has a lot to do with what we've uncovered here. Mary Fanning, Alan Jones, they're reporting at theamericanreport.org, talking about the hammer. The question really is, did Obama and his top officials steal and weaponize a super secret surveillance system known as the hammer to go after their political enemies? And were they using that behind closed doors? And using that in conjunction with what we have found about the abuse of the FISA court, you have to say that these people are the worst kinds of criminals out there. This new report from Mary Fanning and Alan Jones that was just posted the other day goes in more detail to the whistleblower Dennis Montgomery's story about how he was a top analyst for the clandestine intelligence community, and how he was tasked with developing this system for these people. And he was he's a real whistleblower who came forward to expose this. And there are a lot of patriots inside of our military who, retired, who are doing their due diligence and coming forward with this as well, right? Retired Lieutenant General Tom McInerney is one of the people who came forward back in May of 2017. If you'll remember, the day before James Comey pushed the launching of the Russia investigation special counsel, you had the Lieutenant General retired on Dave Janda's program, Operation Freedom, telling the world about the fact that Obama had weaponized this surveillance system to go after his enemies. So this is their attempt to cover that up, it looks like. And I'll leave this for you guys to read because there's new letters that came forward. And apparently, an interesting fact that Dennis Montgomery asserts is that he tried to send letters explaining everything that I just kind of went over to all of the members of the Senate, of the Inspector General's communities, all of the different intelligence different apparatuses, I should say, the Obama White House. They somehow got Obama's fax number and sent it to him. The Attorney General at the time, Eric Holder, the Inspector General of all of the main general offices, U.S. House and Senate committees, and U.S. senators and representatives. So of that, it's actually an interesting note to see that Montgomery claims that when he brought the information that we're talking about here to Inspector General Michael Horowitz, what was he told? He says that he was told, quote, this special access program was above Horowitz's pay grade. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that for a second. So go check out their reporting over at theamericanreport.org, and you can get more information on that. We've done many videos on it, and we've covered it. Links to everything will be in the description, so go check that out. Now, a few other things here. Here's a Q proof. Remember that picture that Q posted the other day with the exact time being 1:29 p.m. Or 1:29, I guess, exactly on the watch? Well, guess what? That's the exact same hour and minute that the IG report was released. I guess that's just another coincidence, right? The media won't talk about. Now, here's something very interesting. You'll remember back in March of 2019, Q made this post right here where he misspelt James Comey's name to say James 8, the number 8, Corny. Think about that, okay? Think about that. That was a misspelling by Q given to us, right? Why would Q give us this misspelling? Well, now, today, when you go to the actual FISA report as it's released, everywhere his name is mentioned, it is misspelled. It is not spelled Comey, C-O-M-E-Y. It is spelled Corny. And how do I prove this? Hit the Control F button when you use the link in the description to read this IG report for yourself, because I'm going to leave a link to the whole report. It's 476 pages, but there are 152 mentions of corn, or corn-E, I guess you should, let's see, corn-E, yeah. So 149 mentions of corn-E, but it looks like Comey, right? It can't be a typo, though. This has to be a message to the Anons and to the fake news media that they're complicit in covering this up. And why would Q mention corn? Why would the OIG mention corn? Why is corn important? Well, I found this little story that I thought was interesting. This is the kind of work that Comey was really, doing back when he was in charge of the FBI, uncovering plots to steal seed corn by China. Well, now this connects to China. And why is connecting to China such an important thing? I think what they're going to end up showing is that a lot of these people were being bought and paid for by foreign actors, right? And it's very possible that Corny used this investigation into corn I mean, think about it. If you're the head of the FBI and you're investigating what they're stealing our corn seed, while President Trump gets into office and makes the realization as soon as he gets in there that they stole all of our weapons technology, they stole all of our intellectual property from all of our major tech and infrastructure companies. So, and here's James Comey investigating corn, right? You think maybe they gave Comey the corn investigation saying, you bust us here and turn a blind eye to us working over here, and we scratch your back. I don't know. But you know what would be really interesting is if we could get to the bottom of it without having an adversarial press, without having corrupt criminals in Congress and in big tech trying to shut us down. But you know what? We persevere. So, yeah, there's other documents. I'll leave other stuff about it, about this corn story. And then here's finally, I think, before we get out of here, this and do another one. Clinton Foundation staffers coming forward with hundreds of pages of evidence. Why is this important? Because this is new revelations coming out about, you guessed it, U.S. Attorney John Huber's investigation into, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, which was started by Trust Sessions, Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So everything's coming together exactly how I think we were supposed to see it come in real time. Here's hilarious op-ed put out by James Comey on the same day. So he pens this for the Washington Post, which is just the fake news, criminal, whatever, platform for them to get up and speak about all this stuff. But basically they deride the IG report. He says it proves that he's correct and that nothing wrong was done, when it's completely ridiculous, especially if you take into account the statements made by the Attorney General Barr and Inspector U.S. Attorney Durham. But here's the part that I thought was it's like, you can't make this stuff up. He literally writes, the painful part is that millions of good people believed what they heard. My 89-year-old mother-in-law watching Fox News in her Iowa assisted living facility became convinced I was going to jail. I repeatedly assured her that there was a 0% chance of that. It's all made up, I would tell her, but I couldn't say that publicly because the investigation wasn't done yet. Like the others accused of treason by the president, I respected the process and cooperated with the Inspector General. So he acknowledges President Trump accused him of treason, and he talks about how even his family thinks he's going to jail. So we'll see who really ends up in jail when this is all said and done. James Corney. That's just something I thought that's a good place for us to wrap up. I want to leave you guys with this quick cut together of probably the best clips from today as far as the impeachment hearings go, and then we'll wrap it up.
The New York Times reported that the whistleblower approached a House Intelligence Committee aide with his concern about Mr. Trump. Is that accurate?
I think the whistleblower's concerns about President Trump are from the threats that.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, did the whistleblower approach a House Intelligence Committee? Let me ask it a different way. Have you had any communications with the whistleblower?
As I said earlier in response to questions from your colleagues, I'm not going to get into any.
So you're refusing to answer whether you've communicated with the whistleblower?
The whistleblower is not relevant to this report.
He's the whole basis of the beginning of this investigation. He's absolutely relevant.
Well, he's
to this
not
committee.
He's not
and to the
relied
American
upon.
people.
The whistleblower's complaints, for the reasons that Mr. Castor said, are not included. His allegations are not included in our report because the evidence has been outstripped and surpassed by the 17 witnesses that we have had come in to testify directly about the conduct that the whistleblower.
So as you sit here today, do you know the identity of the whistleblower?
Sir, I'm not going to talk to you about the identity of the whistleblower.
Because you're also refusing to answer whether you've had communications. That's my time, not yours. You're refusing to answer whether you had communications with the whistleblower. Has any other staff in the Intel Committee had communications with the whistleblower?
Sir, in the Intelligence
Committee. You're
Committee,
refusing to answer that question. And unfortunately, the American people want to know those answers, and unfortunately, my time
Congress has.
I looked at them and said, I'm leaving here in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. Did he ask for something, request something, and hold something of value?
He did. George Kent testified that was...
I think I'll do what you did. George Kent testified this. I'm asking about not George Kent. I'm asking about this question.
Right, but it's important context.
It's not. Answer this question. Did he or did he not? Either Joe Biden's a liar, telling a story to make people impressed, or he actually did this. Which is it?
He did it pursuant to U.S. official policy.
So he did it in withholding, actual dollars, actual thing, holding this out there. So Joe Biden of everybody that we discussed about is the only one that's done a quid pro quo. He's the only one that's used taxpayer dollars to actually threaten a foreign government. And yet we're sitting here pretending that this is not happening. We're sitting here pretending that a president of the United States now would not be concerned. Look, you look at it this way. Joe Biden's a terrible candidate. He can destroy himself on the campaign trail, but he can't get by this. And it doesn't matter who brings it up. It doesn't matter who does it, because this is what happened. And you can whitewash it all you want. You can go over whatever you want, but that's what he did. He's either a liar or he did it, and he did it.
I want to go to the document that started it all, the August 12th whistleblower complaint. Bullet point 1 on page 1 of the whistleblower's complaint, he says this: over the past 4 months, more than half a dozen U.S. officials have informed me of the various facts related to this effort. Mr. Castor, who are these half a dozen U.S. officials?
We don't know.
We don't know, do we? We had no chance to know for sure who these people were because we never got to talk to the whistleblower. Is that right, Mr. Castor?
That's right.
We needed to talk to the guy who started it all. We needed to talk to him to figure out who these more than half a dozen people were who formed the basis of his complaint, and we never got to. Adam Schiff's staff got to. Adam Schiff knows who he is, but we don't get to know, and therefore we don't get to know the original people, the 6 people who formed the basis of this entire thing we've been going through now for 3 months. But we did talk to 17 people, right, Mr. Castor?
That's right.
17 depositions, and you were in every single one. You were the lawyer doing the work for the Republicans in every single one. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And there's one witness who they relied on and built their report around. One witness. Who would that witness be? As I read their report, it's obviously one witness. Who's that witness, Mr.
Ambassador
Castor?
Sondland.
Ambassador Sondland. I think you said earlier his name was mentioned, I don't know, what did you say?
611 times.
611 times. More than Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, the guy who was on the call. More than Ambassador Taylor, their first witness, their star witness, the very first hearing in the Intelligence Committee. They relied on, not the whistleblower, not the more than half a dozen people who informed the whistleblower. They relied on Ambassador Sondland. Why'd they pick Sondland, Mr. Castor?
That's probably the best they got.
Because that's the best they got. The guy who had to file an addendum to his testimony, the guy that had to file the clarification, the guy who said 2 weeks ago, sitting in the same chair you're sitting in, Mr. Castor, in his 23-page opening statement, he said this: unless President Zelensky announces an investigation into Burisma and the Bidens, there would be no call with President Trump, there'd be no meeting with President Trump, there'd be no security assistance money going to Ukraine. That's what Ambassador Sondland said. Mr. Castor, was there an announcement by President Zelensky about investigating the Bidens or Burisma?
No.
No announcement.
No.
Did President Zelensky get a call from President Trump?
Yes.
Did President Zelensky get a meeting with President Trump?
Yes.
Did President Zelensky get the money from the United States?
Yes.
They got the call on July 25th. They got the money on September 11th. They got the meeting on September 25th. Is that right?
Yes.
But the guy who said none of that was going to happen is the guy they build their case around.
Yes.
Is that right?
So I hope that cut together helped you guys get a good idea of what you missed today, because there wasn't that much, except there was a lot of Republicans dominating these Democrats and their hoax against President Trump. So we're going to go ahead and sign off a few more things before we go. Watch these last videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to think about everything that we talked about here today. A few other ways you can help out the channel. Come find me over on BitChute, trying to grow this channel over on BitChute. So come over here, subscribe to me if you haven't already. Link will be in the description. Also, you can find me at JUSTINFORMEDNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to the Q stuff, different news stuff, breaking news, and of course the latest from the channel here. So go check out JUSTINFORMEDNews.com. And I'm over here on Twitter, which is Just Informed Talk's official Twitter page. We can have a conversation over here. It's a great place to connect. I post all the content over here, plus a whole lot more. So if you guys haven't followed me over here on Twitter, please come find me on this platform. Also, a few other ways you can help out the channel are financial. You can come over here to Patreon, patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website. It's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. Look, you guys have kept this channel alive with the way that they've driven down my traffic and taken away my monetization, done everything they can basically to try to destroy this channel. You are the reason why it's still going. So your support here is just as important as anything else, and I'm really appreciative of it. And I want to say thank you. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything will be in the description. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Today I want to share with you out of the book of Psalms, a piece of scripture that talks about a portrait of sinners, and I think this is good to remind ourselves, especially when we get these big, revelations about the individuals who we thought we could trust at one point, right? And especially those in positions of power and authority inside of our government, and how they abuse their power is something we have to consider as just human beings. And as Christians, it's even more important to understand what they're driven by, I think. And in understanding that, I want to share this psalm with you. It's Psalm 53, and it's 1-5, and it says, "The fool says in his heart, God does not exist. They are corrupt and they do vile deeds. There is no one who does good. God looks down from heaven on the human race to see if there is one who is wise and who seeks God. Everyone has turned aside. They have all become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. Will evildoers never understand? They consume my people as they consume bread. They do not call on God. Then they will be filled with terror like no other, because God will scatter the bones of those who besiege you. You will put them to shame, for God has rejected them." And that's just a simple way I look at it. And I hope it helps you all understand how I think we as Christians are meant to kind of see this corruption, this evil, these sinners that have, say there is no God, because they don't understand that doing good and being good is not something you do for just, the people here on this world, or for, whatever it may be, power, fame, whatever. You do it, more important than anything else, for God. You put God first. You make God your motivation. You make the sacrifice on the cross by Jesus Christ the driving motivation in your heart to say, I have my eternal salvation. Now I have to live a good life and do unto others and help others come to that realization that they have that eternal salvation. And that's what we're here to do. Me as an evangelical, I have to do this every day because it's my calling. God gives me the power in my heart. The fire is burning for me to go out into the world and say, I want you to understand that you are saved. And we need to help these sinners. And the best way we can start to help them is by identifying, how they perceive the world, and then understanding that God will deliver us the victory. And it may not be on our timeline, it may not be according to our plan, but it will certainly be according to His plan. If you just humble your heart before God and ask God, give me the strength and courage and wisdom to do what is right for you always, I guarantee you'll be able to do what is right for not only yourself, but your family, your friends, and everyone that matters to you. So that's my message to you, and I want you to take that and spread it out into the world. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching this episode. Remember, come here, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and hit it, punch it, tap it, bop it, whatever, twist it. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.